Hey everyone, Dr. Lisa here. So, we're going to do a little social experiment. I've invited people back into this program. It ran in 2016, and I subsequently, for the past couple of years, have sold it to clients as their basic kind of kickstart home exercise, how to beginning basics of yoga. And the type of yoga teacher I am, I developed my own 5 realms of well-being model, and through that had a belly guru yoga system, which was a lot of what I had learned from different mentors, primarily if we had to say styles. I didn't really ever I didn't really ever describe yoga as these yoga styles. I felt that yoga was yoga and that there were different ways we could express it, such as the arts are the arts, and we can express it as dance, we could express it as songwriting, we can express it as painting. And so I always just taught the yoga. So I would have teach, what are the arts versus the science in yoga, the system and philosophy. And so when you go into the program, there's some of, what's a mantra and why do we do this and that. It's a basic introduction, because I think, especially in these times, there's a lot of people that are there doing it for an exercise, a physical exercise. I tend to teach a yoga of a mental exercise, a developmental exercise, an emotional exercise. I focus a lot on nervous system resiliency. I focus a lot on personal reflection, and to that extent, my yoga, the Belly Guru Yoga training system, was really a behavioral modification system that worked at the mind, and through the mind, we would affect the physiology, or the psychology, or the sociology, and so it's a biopsychosocial, as well as the spirituality, which, in my definition of it, when I speak of self or spirituality, I'm speaking of self realization being the ultimate goal, self actualization, understanding yourself as who you are in the bigger picture, that there actually is a bigger picture, and that you have a body, right? So you are soul source who has a mind and houses itself within a body, and that sort of perspective. So, if I had to say what that was, where did I pull from things you may be more familiar with? Obviously, hatha having the movements and the breath work and things like that. A system of raja, which is the holy science. So that may be the satsang, the meetups, and, listening to the wise word, self-reflecting. We learn through story, right? We as humans learn through story, very much so as we work with marketing, very much so as we work with communicating any relationship, our friends, our first friendships, our love relationships, our relationships with our children, our neighbors, all of these things. And also if we're in business, with sales, all of these things are an exchange of presence, right? And I don't mean gifts like under the Christmas tree. I mean presence, as in being there with the person. We've gotten to a point where we've lost that yoga, that union, right? Because people are perfectly fine depending on the age. My daughter seems to, try to convince me that the 20-year-olds looking at their phones while they're talking, they don't think that's rude at all. And I find that hard to believe. But yes and no, I find it hard to believe. But we've lost what we as humans in evolution really kept our humanity, our eye to eye contact, our nonverbal communication. We forget we're animals in terms of the good parts too. So that's the type of yoga that you'll get introduced to, just sort of like, why do we maybe want to eat differently, or this or that. Not to be extreme. Some people get carried away. Same thing with religion, right? Same thing with educational levels or credentials, or man versus woman, or this African versus European. We kind of sometimes get ourselves in our identity of the I-ness of it and don't really realize the wholeness of it. And so, that self exploration is kind of Raja. You in the bigger picture. You'll see some of that. Bhakti. I'm not a big bhakti. The singing and ecstatic kind of love, everybody singing, dancing kind of kirtan practitioner. So not that I don't attend those things, but that's not the way my art of science of the science of yoga. That's not my talent, nor is the language. So you're not going to hear me saying a whole bunch of Sanskrit. And I know some people will say, well, then that's not the real yoga. I don't believe that. I believe yoga was made to evolve. And in this day and age, it's hard for us to communicate as it is. And I don't need to put the Sanskrit. I value it, and each and every, and as you go into it, each and every, there's such a science to that in itself. Every sound, it's like a symphony, right? So if you are a real trained musician or a linguist and you hear spoken word or the way I write or something, and I don't use a comma right or something, I don't use a word right, it'd probably be like nails on a chalkboard kind of thing, right? So if you're somebody that's going to sit here and judge and this isn't real yoga, or you're expecting me to be you in your yoga, that's not what I profess. I am somebody who has modernized it into what the Belly Guru yoga system is, which is a non-dogmatic way of educating on the whole science of yoga, letting you know what different things are, and then incorporating it into something that I think is a little bit more palatable on the tongues of the Western practitioner, mainly the ones that are healing or going through some sort of process of change, may have other, Western healers involved, health care workers. I was always walking the line between Western and Eastern, and my preference was not to, although I knew the Ayurveda and I might apply it, it was not my preference to necessarily be an Ayurvedic practitioner. I went the route of being a regular Western styled, health and wellness coach, and understanding that well, because that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be talking to the Western minds and bridge building that Eastern concept of self and self-reliance and self-efficacy and self-worth and self-value and self-actualization and self-realization, which ties very nicely to what psychologists do a lot of their work, kind of running out on the idea of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs for survival, which at this time is very prophetic, because we're in a lot of fear, and there's just so many stories. I don't know what the heck's going on. I mean, there's a camp that's saying none of this is really real to this, urgency level. It might be a pandemic, but like almost like mind over the collective, how sick people really get. And then the others like looking at the news, and is that magnification? And so you need to sit where you're at. It's a very confusing time. And so I reopened this up to give a place where we're going to do more the satsang and the meeting of the minds, the Raja, the learning of that. Some Hatha, I'm probably explaining. I'll take, in terms of the Hatha, I'll be really great and open to explaining some things as best as I know. But I'm not going to make this a biomechanics exercise experience. For that, if you look below, every single module had an hour's practice, had a practice to do for the week. Some of them had bonus practices. There's little add-on things for like working with your kids around and things like that. So I thought that would be perfect, since some people have new co-workers at home for a little while. And my thought process there was, again, just to see this little social experiment of, what if we decided to just utilize this time for everyone who can teach yoga to teach it to the masses that want to be part of that. And my offering of yoga is for you to find your yoga, your unity, what works between, whether you want it to stay very physical of mind, I mean physical in terms of, breath and body, and the, re-entering it and re-embodying that after trauma or loss, grief or just fear or happiness and joy. That's where the ecstasy and the dancing and the singing and things like that kind of get wrapped into. Understanding that that might be a path for you. Also understanding, maybe if you're a little bit more structured and you are coming into this very disciplined and very, type A and this and that, maybe Ashtanga is better for you, or Iyengar, where they're going to say, the exact angle of your knee and all of that. But in the end, what ends up happening is when you start doing the yoga off the mat, which is where I like to really take people through my work, either whether it's pain or a chronic condition or something where they really need to have a behavioral change to own their health, right? My podcast is Owning Her Health. Owning their life, becoming the CEO of their life, which might mean making a brand and taking a business or an idea into a program or something just like this. That whole process for me is yoga off the mat. That whole thing of living outside the gym and outside the run and outside the squat class and outside the aerobics class and outside the milkshake you take, the veggie shake you take and all of that's great. It's all awesome. And there's 1,000,001 instructors and educators who are going to talk to you about your immunity and your gut health and this and that. I know all that, but I relate it to the stuff no one's really teaching you that I find is really what we need, which is vitality. And so if you join what I'm going to be adding in for this, you have the materials, the basics things here. I drip this once a week for 8 weeks. And you'll get a new little, access thing. But what I'm going to be doing is coming in and adding things to it. These types of understandings and lookings at the world and self-reflection and grounding. And I think at this point where I'm re-entering this and opening this up amid COVID-19 pandemic, whether you want to believe the severity or not, I think all of our lives are altered and there's going to be a change, and whichever way you want to throw that coin, whether this is some big conspiracy or not on the collective mind, like either an Orwellian dystopia or if it actually is, the Bible's wiping out and, Jonah and the whale or Noah and the ark or whatever, whichever way it is, here's the thing, guys. The people who are going to be most working on their clarity, the thing they cannot take away from us. They've tried it, right? They tried it in Auschwitz. They tried it, the slave owners. They tried it, all over the world. When people are put to the test, maybe not even being treated like they matter as individuals, the thing that they cannot take from you, if you know how to control it, is your mindset. And so that yoga off the mat and how you take that mindset and make that your reality that you desire, how to think, right? A lot of us are not thinking anymore. We worry, we reverberate, either in the past, in memories, we sit in our memories, or we reverberate about the future that we really don't know. A lot of us have lost the skill of just being present and think and make a decision and go with it. But we get indecisive, we avoid, we run, we look for somebody to tell us what to do. That inability is you not having yoga. And I don't care. I've seen plenty of people that can do a wonderful, Paschimottanasana and Hanumanasana and, whatever, splits and contortions, and they're there and they're pleasing to their teacher and they're on the cover of Yoga Journal. But I see them obsessing about someone's posture in the class, or so concerned about somebody else on their own mat, falling prey, as we've seen in many of the religions and spiritual leaders or whatever, falling prey to their own propaganda, their own ego not being in check, with the reality of what they were in the world, and who they were in the world. So that those people to me are never advanced yogis. They're not, those are not the advanced yogis to me. The advanced yogi may very well stay in a chair their whole practice. The advanced yogi may very well never really even do yoga asana after a certain age and take up weights at the gym, or some sort of Tai Chi class, or, I just touched my face. I can't touch anything else. Those people, it's really not the movement. If you can understand the real yoga, what's behind it, why you would even do the movement, and what's the movement experience supposed to give you, it will, by secondary effect, give you a wonderful body form, a beautiful vessel to house all these wonderful thoughts and ideas, and to have this prosperity in that you seek, and to feel that joy and those wonderful sensations you want. That just will come with the right mindset. You make the right choices. You don't sit there and eat a whole bag of potato chips just because you're sad and lonely and it feels good. You don't do that when you have the yoga. And it will come and go and whatever, because again, what I'm going to show you is that you are actually an energy body. And so I'm going to just offer that up. And so this is kind of the new intro. And just letting you know, the mailbox for now is no longer Om Healing. I would like you to send any concerns or questions you have, either put it in the forum under what you're concerned about, or send it directly to info@drlisahollandpt.com. That's info@drlisahollandpt.com. And because that's the mailbox I opened up another company, and that's going to be the easiest way to keep checks, since I haven't been running regular work through this program. So that's the most direct way, okay? Or the forum, or the reply. I would like you to download and look underneath this post and get the link for the app for Kajabi if you're not in any of my other programs. That's going to make it super simple for me to check in with you, which I will. Again, we are so not knowing what's going on, and I'm doing some other things. So my intention is to check in with you, if not every day, every other day, 5 out of 7 days. Okay, 5 out of 7 days of the week, Monday through Friday, this is our work. And Saturday and Sunday, you do your own yoga, and you come and give me feedback for the next week's stuff, where you're at, what you're doing. And let's see what kind of Sangha or spiritual community we can build within this right here. I purposely took it off of Facebook and Instagram and this and that, because I want there to be like this haven, this Sangha, this place, this kind of virtual ashram we can come to. And if we don't want to be on social media for a couple of days, we could still do this. So between the app and you getting the updates for that, and then coming in and you'll get the announcements, that's what you'll see. You can go into the forum. We really don't need Facebook. And what I might add in, if I really feel like we need a little bit more community between the emails and announcements and stuff like that, is I might just add in, I have an option through Kajabi to set up communities. Again, they'll function a little bit more like that Facebook kind of interaction, chit chat. So we'll see where we go with this. But at least at the core, you'll have a little grounding practice. You have a little asana practice. You will learn a little bit more maybe than what you knew, get some questions answered, and then be getting these updates for some grounding and Sangha. And I'll invite you for our interactive talks on Zoom calls. so that we can be interactive and we can discuss some things, and we will make this virtual ashram and see what happens, okay? So thank you very much for being here. Any questions, again, you can just email me back, info@drlisahollandpt.com. But welcome to the Sangha, okay? For the next 8 weeks, you'll get an update weekly on your stuff to do, stuff to learn, little Western, little Eastern, kind of my mix of Belly Guru Yoga. You'll get to understand Belly Guru Yoga because a lot of you weren't at my center in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I closed that down and went virtual and been doing some different things. So it's kind of like a nostalgic kind of return back for me in that role, and I'm more than happy to do it. Hopefully we get this thing going, okay? So what you can do below, like I said, is click on Get the Kajabi link. See the action steps and give me some feedback where you're at, who you are. Let's do an intro, who you are, what's your yoga background, what are you seeking out of this community, why did you join, and anything else you want to share with us on the collective, okay? Take care. Bye.